Okay, I think we're live. I think it's the 26th edition. I'm losing track. Yeah. Anyway, the next edition of the Data Value Show. Today's focus is going to be on the value of data quality, and who better to have on the show to talk about data quality? No other than the legend Susan Walsh. So, Susan, welcome.
Hey, and you got the episode to match my age. Fantastic.
It's amazing when that happens. I think the first episode of this year was the 24th episode, so we just managed to get it into the same year as it was. Well, but yeah, Suzanne, thank you very much for coming on the show. I think we probably met at a Big Data London passing by. And I think it's probably the longest chat we've had uninterrupted without bar or
Big
something.
Data London's crazy, isn't it?
It is. And, but yeah, for those that don't know you, do you want to give yourself a little bit of introduction?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm known as the classification guru, fixer of dirty data. This sparkles in the background is my data den. And I've had my own business for almost 7 years now. And we literally clean dirty data. That is what we do. We classify spend data for procurement teams, normalize their suppliers, build customized taxonomies. And then we also clean their vendor masters, clean people's CRM systems, clean messy material master data. So basically, we've seen it all. And no matter how bad you think your data is, there's always someone with worse data out there.
Very true. And I think we were just saying in the green room, the backstage before we came on, was that you've quality. Everyone's talking about data quality now, and you've been say you're in business for 7 years. You've been a big advocate on all of the conferences and on social media of raising awareness of the benefits of having quality, well, the pitfalls of quality data and the benefits of having clean data.
Yeah.
And I love the classification aspect as well, because you can have clean data, but you don't know what it's clean for, and context to it as well is another focus.
So important.
So how have you seen that snowball? Because obviously you've been banging the drum and sharing for a while, but there's been a bit of a catalyst, please, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's unexpected, I have to say. This whole thing started me being active on LinkedIn, because when I set up the business, I didn't have any connections in procurement or data. I didn't know anyone. And I knew I was very good at classifying spend data, but I'm not an analyst. I don't code. And I really didn't know where I could go and get a job doing the same thing. But what I quickly realized was that although there was a need and an interest in the services I was offering, which was purely the cleaning part, not the dashboards, not the analytics, nobody was out there looking for me, because nobody else was offering this as a standalone service. And so really, I just had to be out there saying, this is why you need to clean your data. This is why you need us. And then actually it's become a bit of a passion beyond the business of just like, it's a no-brainer. Clean your data and you'll have an easier life, kind of. Yeah. And things have not got better, because I have a team now. I started and it was just me, and we're growing. So this is not a problem that's going away anytime soon.
No, it's just getting bigger, isn't it?
Yeah, and more data, more people, more problems.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the term I just wrote down there was easier life. And I think when you're able to educate the business, the users, the organization, that your shortcuts now that may make your life individually easier is making everyone else's life harder. And I think that understanding that community, you're one team, one company, you get the company bonus is because you've all achieved what the company was looking out to get to target. But yeah, it's that education piece again. Like, you're going to have these problems unless you put these things in place. So you're talking about going and you help fix the problem that may have already happened. How do you address preventing data degradation, as I like to call it, or that erosion of the value of that data over time once you've done all that hard work?
Well, I mean, we are mainly one and done projects, and we do give recommendations and tell them how to maintain. And that they're going to say thanks, and that's going to be it until the next time they have a problem. I think the biggest problem is when you're trying to get budget for these things and you're trying to sell it to senior management, they don't see the value. It's very hard to kind of show a tangible benefit to this stuff. And so it's often just like, well, you can have money to fix this, but we're not maintaining it kind of attitude. Yep. And everyone, there's so many job cuts just now. Everyone's already taken on more than their fair share of work. And it's always the thing that goes to the bottom of the pile. Always the last thing.
Yep, go that path of least resistance. Everyone's, if they're taking on more work, you'll take shortcuts. And I've just made another note as you were talking through those. And I have to do this. We do work for clients. You got this whole onboarding process. And it's the same things you have to get trained on. Of, what's different security concerns or phishing exercises or security things you need to know about. I think there's a need out there for some compulsory training, for
I do it with my team. Like every other month, I'll just be like, be careful. Like if you get an email from Microsoft, it's not from Microsoft because I manage everything and I know, like we have it. I get it all the time in like protect faxes. Well, for a start, who's using a fax?
Yeah, exactly.
But I've seen, at some in a group chat that I'm in, there's a fake Microsoft email going around saying, scan this QR to authenticate or to, add your 2 multi-factor authentication. It's terrifying. Like if you don't check that email and where it's coming from, they're getting harder and harder to spot.
So we educate people in companies about these things. I think there's a room there to say, look, by the way, look at these quality issues you can have if you don't capture the right information at the right time. I think there's I call it data literacy, maybe, or enablement of we should be providing to educate on the benefits of quality data.
We should. I think the way to sell it to the decision makers is, guess what? All of this stuff that we're talking about right now is going to drive profitability and increase profitability. It's going to help your bottom line. It's kind of, we can't show you prove it until it's happened, but it does happen.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's one of those things that it's very easy to measure after the event. I've been in situations where there's been a breach or something that's cost the organization money, but they weren't prepared to put the money and invest to prevent the breach. But then after the event, it would have been cheaper or cost effective if we had.
And something that they don't consider is the reputational damage. The cost of that can take years to come back from reputational damage.
Exactly. You can lose it overnight, but from taking years to get it can be quite overnight. I think understanding, once you've gone and done for an exercise there and you've gone and tidied up, you had 1,000 accounts and you realize there's only 100 different individual entities there. Now you can say, okay, well, now I only have to do this many invoices because we're consolidating. Or, all right, after I've done it, I can evidence and prove.
What can happen is one invoice could be assigned to 2 different accounts and then it gets paid twice, and that happens a lot. I know in the NHS the number of invoices that get paid multiple times is phenomenal.
There's a whole forensic accounting piece in there to go and look at.
There's whole companies that exist just to go through and claim back the invoices that they've overpaid. My
sister works for one, so so I know that there's a business out there, so it must be that bad if there's a business.
And we're talking.
There's a clear example of you're now paying that company. So sorry, sister, you lose business this way, but you're paying a company now to compensate for the poor poor ownership and management of your internal data from a master data manager.
And we're not talking a couple of £1,000s here. We're talking hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of pounds. It's crazy.
It is. I mean, going off, slightly off topic here, quality leave the MDM as well. And we'll touch on, actually, I think, what different things when people say quality, what things could fall into that bucket. I think that'll be a good thing to talk about. But I'm going to touch on it for a minute. And the example of these large health organisations that to go and do a nice brand new SAP project to go and migrate it. We've all seen these councils now nearly bankrupt because they've gone and spent millions and millions on failed projects of doing these things. But it's because you can't go and do. People think, oh God, we're going to have to go straight to the big solution to go and fix this particular quality issue. Whereas, I think maybe as you said, using your services
right. Get the basics right, and don't fall for the shiny objects.
Do you see that what you do is a prerequisite to helping companies before doing migrations to
absolutely. How many times, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that they've done an implementation and they didn't clean the data before, and then nobody wants to use the new system because the data is still rubbish. And I've heard of tens of millions of dollars of projects being abandoned, because they didn't want to invest in cleaning that little bit up front. They don't realize how big a problem it is.
Yep.
Or they assume that this new tool is going to fix all those problems, which of course it doesn't.
No, it's the horse is already bolted, as they say, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good one to look at. When we say data quality, and I've got some views on this, but I'd love to hear yours. Is what categories of quality issues do you see out there? So how would you group them up?
So I kind of have a group of about 10 of them. So things like typos, missing information, incorrect information. I'm now trying to visualize my PowerPoint slide to remember them all. Information in the wrong columns. That's always a good one. Like, you see the address and the cities and the postcodes. That's always a good one. Different units of measure, like, US versus UK can be a problem. Then there's definitely currency issues as well. Like if you're working in finance in any way and you've done your currency conversion wrong, which we have and learned from, then that can cause problems, especially if you don't realize you're working in multiple currencies. Then there's also formatting issues, and the big one on that is, actually, if anyone's watching, I'd love them to put how they format their date in the comments, because if in a minute you will see a multitude of different ways of formatting dates. And I do this when I talk to organizations as well about clean data, and even within one organization, everyone is formatting their dates different ways. So that can cause problems with like matching documents up. We were talking about invoices and things. You might have the invoice number, but the date's wrong, and then it doesn't match. And then so you raise a new one, and then it gets paid twice. And then, of course, the troublemakers that are the duplicates as well. But I mean, that's kind of the stuff that I work with. I know there's so much more than that.
Yeah, and that's a very comprehensive list, and I mean, I think the only one that I'd extend on, really not add, would be timestamps, so the wrong time zones. So when people are either not capturing it, or I've got different time zones set in different places and bring the data together. So I think that's another one that gets overlooked sometimes. But I suppose the other one is the data you don't know you don't have, and I suppose that's a quality in the usage of that data, because it's a data you didn't. And there's a good old. I'll use one that is not the World War II bomber, because everyone does that one, but it's the French train operator, or national operator. They were looking at procuring all their new trains, and they bought them all based on the measurements of all the platforms that they had. The platforms that they had only started from 1953 or something, when maybe they might have lost some documentation before then, but from 1953 they started capturing all of the different train platforms and sizes, but they had many platforms that predated that year, and the trains didn't fit there. So yeah, so
yeah, I've got
yeah,
a similar
what data you don't have sometimes can
procurement story. They had ordered a new vending machine, and when it was delivered, they couldn't get up the stairs because it was too big. Nobody had measured the stairs.
I can tell you another funny one on that one with a similar sort of size. Was a data center. They had the top floor was where they put the particular very large appliance machines from Oracle, Exadata, and when it went to look to scale them, they needed to put more of these in there, but unfortunately the weight limit of the building wouldn't take any more. And I think another sort of the same machinery, they had to like take the casing off it to get it into a lift.
Yeah, these things happen on a daily basis. This is not unusual stuff at all.
No, but it's yeah, and the common pitfalls, but people keep making the same mistakes. So hopefully, anyone out there just about to go and do a large train order, make sure you know your platforms or equivalent scenarios.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Got myself a cough here today.
Oh dear. There are so many bugs going around. Did you
much traveling?
Yeah.
Do
you find after traveling, like now, I am like shriveled up like a prune for days. Like I can't rehydrate like for ages.
Yeah, and it's I think coming up here, it's been very cold as well. So yeah,
and there's so many bugs going around now. So many bugs.
It is indeed. So there's something. So data monitoring, data observability is the latest trendy word out there. Data observability, and I've always had some beef with it. I'll be honest, and I think I bring it up quite a few times. When
not you, surely.
Yeah, I know. I have previous ranting.
We've all got our thing.
Yeah, exactly. At least I don't rant about the modern data stack as much now, but it's kind of rebranding it. I think that will come out of day-to-day text or something else.
They're going to be the dated data stack soon.
Well, yeah.
How long can it be modern?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, or postmodern, all the rest of it. Yeah, so there's a whole different ramp we'll go down there, Susan. But back to the observability, and there's lots of products out there solving problems that they classify under this observability bit. Sorry. So, but what would you say fits under when people have that lens, that observability of their data? What do you think they need to be observing?
Well, I think the problem is they're trying to observe everything, but actually you should be looking at what the priorities are for your business or your data and focusing on those things. It's like we can show you everything and then it's information overload. But if you kind of focus in or, red flags, things that are not looking right, focusing on priorities like that instead, but I think you can just get completely lost in all the information.
It becomes like those the false alerts. If you get 50,000 Slack messages and in there's a really, really important one,
there's
no point getting them all because you're going to miss the other one. It's a very good point you mentioned there. It needs to be contextual to the people that actually are doing that observing, and what language or what codes or what they'll be looking at. So from a nice organization that has nice data domains that are owned by parts of the organization, it's clearly understood, they're going to want to know what's relevant for them and only get alerts for things that affect them. But then you need to know who's consuming that to know who to actually send the information to. But then you've got maybe from a pipeline perspective where something that's failed, someone wants to observe why it's failed and what the quality rules on that. But I think the point I'm going to is the fact that one quality issue for one use case may not be a quality issue for another use case. So
exactly that. I say, because I've got the data quote, so data's got to be consistent, organized, accurate, and trustworthy. Well, with the accurate bit, I always say you need to define what accurate is depending on the department you're in or the data you're working with. Because if you're in finance, you're reporting legally on numbers that have to be accurate, so they need to be spot on. But if you're in sales and marketing, your accurate might be, we need to populate these 3 data points in the CRM system, or 5 data points. It's nowhere near the same kind of level of importance as like getting all your numbers right. So that's really important. And because also like these things are like classification too, it's subjective. What I think it might be different to what you think, and we could both be right. So it's about having consistency and everyone just doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Which leads back to that MDM discussion that we touched on earlier. And I see Jay. In fact, just shout out to some of the
hey,
people.
I was just
hey Dan,
pointing him earlier. Yes.
Paul Sargent, Mohammed, Jason, and Joe as well. Hey Joe. So I just saw Jason's on there, and it was a conversation we've been having actually with Dan Tooney as well on one of our we call it wine and book club, but I'm not sure it's more beer.
There's not much books.
Yeah, not much wine.
More wine.
But we were talking about reinventing MDM and these large organizations, the SAPs of the world of going for those MDM solutions, which are a very long process, and the perceived value you may get from them is arguable about the length of time that they'll take to implement. But having something that allows that MDM fuzzy matching sort of, okay, look, it's most likely these people, and it's for that use case. And also you can add these up digitally, and then also revalidate those mappings at some point. I think MDM would be cool again. It'd have to have some new fancy name. We'll have to call it
please no
MDM or something like that.
No. I think the problem is with most of these tools, I was talking about this on another podcast earlier too, is you need experienced people to check the data and the output, and that bit is often lacking. And because I'm always saying, like, look at your data regularly, because things that are not right will jump out at you straight away. If you're always doing like 50 units of something every month with a client, and then suddenly it's 500, is that because there's a promotion on, or because someone put an extra 0 in? And if you don't look at it often enough, it's not going to be as obvious. And I think, like you're saying about the fuzzy matches, you need somebody with experience to know whether they think it's going to be right or wrong. If you just give it to anybody, then you're probably going to get any kind of result.
Yeah.
And I think that's where most places or tools are failing, is they don't have that last person line of checking.
Human in the loop. I'm just writing that down, and again, that human in the loop. You could take a risk-based approach to that one, and we're all here to try and replace ourselves of what we do.
I want to be on a beach somewhere. That's the out of business. Please stop creating more dirty data.
Yeah, the bot that goes and talks on your behalf has been trained on you with your voice.
Can
as
you
well.
Imagine a Susan bot though? That's a bit scary.
You'd scare people into getting the quality of their data, so it'll have the desired effect.
Give them an electric shock if they're wrong.
we have to get Scott Taylor to build that into the scholar he's got on the there office. I got off track a little bit there. But Val talked about that golden record, that's as aspirational to get to that golden record for every single person, and it's working out what what your tolerances are, what gold impurities are you allowed that you can still
But also, I see this a lot in my space. So you can have a organizational golden record, but procurement needs something very different to finance. And so, you know, it needs to roll up into that, but they all also need their own golden records within their different departments too.
Yeah, and then you get in a whole organization. Just people don't like the word golden, do they? So they go,
Should we call it silver? Should we have like gold,
I want my
platinum, and then gold, yeah. And then silver.
And then you have to have different hallmarks of the gold to keep everyone happy. You're all gold, but you know, you just got different hallmarks.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, yeah, maybe if we did have like, this is a 24 karat gold record, maybe the business would actually start to see the value in that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, unfortunately, we have to do this marketing and selling stuff just to get the.
I think we might have given Jason a heart attack. He's typing in.
I think he's hiring me for something now. Anyway, maybe he's a salesperson. I don't know. He multiple golden records. Yeah.
He's freaking out.
Yeah. You got 9 karat gold and 24 karat. Of course, you can have more.
Yeah, it's just levels. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then the diamond stuff, you're going to have your manufactured diamonds and the non-manufactured, which you won't be able to tell which are which.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to like the usage of that data and that human in the loop aspect, it all comes back to actually understanding how your data is being consumed in your organization. Because if you don't know how it's being used, you can't go and assess the potential risk associated to it. So you'll just do a bad job everywhere. And you'll just go with that fingers crossed approach. I hope it's not going to explode.
That kind of input stage, you know, it's people are like, well, we've always done it this way. We've always input it like this. We've always used Excel, or we've always, it's hard to break the habits sometimes. But that really is where the point of the problem start, is at the input of the data.
Yeah, and it leads quite nice on something. Just save me typing it. I have to. My memory goes. Otherwise, I don't write it down. I'll lose the track. But business process mapping. So and it's something I've probably bantered about this as well. Is that I think that's missing in organisations. It only normally happens when there's a very large scale transformation, or merger or acquisition. Okay, we've had to go and get these people in to do all this business process mapping.
Yeah.
And then it gets no one looks at it again afterwards.
Yeah.
But that
do you have anything like that?
Sorry, say again?
Do you have anything like that? Because we kind of have stuff. I mean, not that anyone needs it, but we kind of do.
We got. I mean, depending on which, there's some domains that we've got, industry expertise as well, so we can understand the whole payment process, and we have a good idea of trying to have what level of business from a high level onboarding business process or a billing business process. But it's when you get down to the different levels in them, which then organisations, to your point that you're making earlier, is, oh, well, you just always did that, and then they find out they always just did something, that they downloaded something, sent to someone else, they filed it, it was never actually used anymore.
And they don't even know what it's being used for. Yeah. I did a project a couple of years ago during COVID for a government department, and I was supposed to be brought in to categorize and clean some stuff, but it ended up being more of a kind of business process improvement thing. And the team were using like 4 or 5 different spreadsheets. So we pulled them into 2 and they fed off each other. So because basically 2 people were on the phone or on Teams. One was reading out numbers and one was typing them in. And they were doing that for like hours a week. Just by putting a couple of Excel sheets together, nothing massively technical or fancy. We saved them like 10 hours of people time a week.
And they just got rid of the one that was doing the reading or the typing, because the typing skills are better than reading, I suppose.
Well, it was a COVID project, so it was going to come to an end at some point anyway. Right. They probably just kept
we hoped, and luckily it did. Well, otherwise it would have been. We wouldn't be chatting here now, probably, otherwise.
Yeah.
So we've got another one from Val, actually, going back to the BPM stuff. Yeah, I think, again, back to the fact that it's hard, though, to maintain these things. And and I don't know if there's a conversation I had with John Cook in the past, was if you could reverse engineer a business process, understand, you know, where data is originating from, where it's being mastered, and actually get that map, but be achieved by reverse engineering from logs or agents there. I think that would be a great thing. So
well, I think, you know,
if anyone's
so popular.
I know, that's yeah. Did you know I'm on a show? I actually thought I was on Focus Time and everything, but they seem to get through.
Business processes can be kind of like old code. Actually, it's just layers and layers of plaster sticking stuff together. When actually you'd probably be better just scrapping everything and starting from scratch. So instead of having like 500 lines of code, you get like 10. I don't know. But it does feel like, you know, it is just layers upon layers of we've always done this.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's actually the first time I'm going back to the 5 bullet points, because we freestyled up until
That's
now.
me. I am very good.
That's the way I always like to do these things anyway. So I think the one that we haven't really talked about as much, I mean, we touched on, was the data integrity and security aspect. And classification, of being your specialty, and from a security aspect as well. Is that something you've helped? You've helped with, and how do you normally tackle those challenges of classifying data and tagging it from a security perspective?
So until I started my business, I didn't even know that security classification is a thing. And the whole reason that I found out was I met with a guy, he worked in classification, I'm doing classification. We're at 5 minutes into this conversation. We met in person, and it's like, I don't think we're talking about the same thing here. So I've done a little bit of research, but it is different to what I do. But the data code principles would still work. You know, it's got to be, you know, you have to have everybody working to the same standards, the same rules, the same terminology, the same processes. It's really important to regularly remind people of security. I just know from my own business as well, you know, I am so conscious about passwords and opening files in a public place. Just, you know, making sure that whatever's on the screen is, you know, not too sensitive. Also, like closing my laptop when I go to get a coffee or something if I'm out somewhere, like even things like that. But it's so easy to get complacent and forget. But there's some great tools out there now. I haven't checked recently, but I know there are some great tools that can, even if you're about to send an email to someone, you know, you can be prompted like, are you sure you want to send it to this person?
The latest, I think, I'm not sure, we use Microsoft, but there's some of the management consoles on there. It can automatically detect if you've got things on there that you should be sending it encrypted and things like that. So sometimes it's like a I've been annoyed in the past. Why is it taking that file off every time? But then maybe it was a good job it had on.
Well, I like the prompt to remind you to actually add the files in, because how many times have you sent an email without the file? So the prompt is good. But yeah, it's there are things you can do to minimize the errors.
Yeah, I think when you're in there looking at that, talking about the business understanding their data, they're going to highlight these things when there's an issue.
But it's a quick story, if that's all right. So I'm a key influencer for the Accounts Payable Association, and they had an event just before Christmas, and a woman was sharing a story, like really bravely, because it had just happened weeks before. But she had an email from her MD saying, I need you to go and buy me some Apple phone cards or something. And she was duped into buying with her own money.
No.
A couple of £1,000 of cards. She got about halfway through and she was like, this doesn't feel right. But you know, it's even things like that, you know, check, have processes in place, like, you know, we'll just say to your team, like, we will never ask you to do this via email. Always phone the person. Although he was saying, "Oh, I've lost my phone," blah blah blah, but you know, verify it with someone external.
Yeah, we have the same like phishing ones inside work. I got one the other day saying, "Hi, mum, I've lost my phone." I mean,
Yeah,
I'm definitely not your mum.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But I mean, from a security, from a data perspective, from and I'll share some stuff we're doing at the moment, which is on for PCI data. So you have organisations that will have their credit card information and associated things to do with that card or that account. But then by using tagging or actually that of the attributes, then you can actually generate security that's driven off the tags. But it then, it is, and it's putting that onus on people having that better data literacy as data engineers, because when you're building this stuff, you need to really understand, what controls do I need to put on these attributes, and how many of these attributes, if combined together, could help me identify an individual person. So it is something that I think we all, as data professionals, the more we can help companies with that classification aspect from a tagging and a security perspective, even while you may be doing it from a quality perspective. So if you're looking at time and having
it's
that,
crazy. I've even had, this was years ago now, but someone from a financial institution, we had never even had a conversation on LinkedIn or on a phone or email. I don't know how this person got my details, but they just sent me their financial data and said, "Could you have a look at this?" We had never spoken, no NDA, no password protection, nothing. Just like, here we go.
Yeah, well, they definitely need your help from a security aspect as well, or what you should be doing. So, Jason, I'm just giving a point on that one. How much this work shifts right to the business? That's a really good point, because engineers are the ones building this stuff, but they're not the ones that actually understand the business requirements, or they're further removed from it. So I think to your answer, JT, we need to get more of it shifting right, but that just comes on that data ownership piece. If those owners are now working with the developers building it, then I think they'll get to a better place, with a better solution.
Yeah.
So I think we talk about time. Well, another one on here: timeliness and relevance. And you talked earlier that the finance team, maybe they need to know what their golden record, or what we refer to it. So how have you got organisations who you work with to make sure that they let you know what is relevant to them?
In the procurement side, it's pretty easy, particularly because of COVID, because most of them don't want to look back more than 1 or 2 years of data, because the COVID skews the trends and the patterns and the costs of everything. And so it tends to be they want to go back 1 to 2 years. But, if it's like a CRM system or something, then you probably want to look at when they were last active. You probably don't want to speak to anyone who has not been active for more than 18 months or 2 years or something. Just chop them all off. Because that costs money. Having redundant people in your database, you're paying for that in terms of storage and space. So get rid.
Yeah, no, and maybe even paying licensing fees for some of these things as well.
Yeah.
If the user's on there, they could still get access to them.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with events companies too, like with their databases, and that stuff is out of date pretty much as soon as you've got it, because people are moving jobs all the time, and they tend to give their business names and addresses.
Yeah, and you have some good matching capability to look to see if you correlate them to their LinkedIn post, and then say that they're most likely to be these people. We're pitching that product again today.
Hey, is that what you do? That's cool.
No. It was what Jason does. I'm
your future?
securing my sales job with him. We got a question out here from Paul Sargent, so let's jump to that one. So do you see preventative measures such as good naming of fields as part of data quality?
Oh yes, data quote again, consistent, organized, accurate, trustworthy, and it's I guess it's kind of like what I say for building taxonomies too. Try not to use too many business acronyms. Make it as simple and understandable for someone who's just coming off the street, or your mum or your dad. You know, try and not have lots of business related acronyms, because we all know that certain acronyms mean different things in different industries. And so like MVP to me always meant minimum viable price. Now, I came from retail, that's why, you know. So, you know, and if people don't realize, then that's how mistakes happen as well. So yeah, absolutely. And please, no big long names in columns if you can, because it doesn't look good on charts.
Yeah, or you mix characters in it and things like that, because then some things like spaces. But I mean, the what Paul's referring to about the currency in the price field name. So it comes to a data modeling, and obviously Joe's listening at the moment. I wonder if that's something he'll be addressing in his book of, you know, where you have the currency as a row as an attribute, or where you have them as columns.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I have this effect on people. I can't help it. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. I have to.
I hope you're taking it easy after this.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
It's only Monday.
I know. Oh, excuse me, hold on.
Oh dear.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so and back to that data modeling piece is, you know, if you just have that price field, but you've got the rows that are actually dictating, you know, different currencies on different rows, it can cause a challenge or a misreported figure that you have at the end.
Yeah, you get in trouble for that too.
Yes, especially if you've got some like I think yen's quite a high one, or a Turkish lira back then. You know, you could really skew your figures.
Krona, and someone had done the conversion the wrong way around, so we had loads of like $500 taxis, and it was like, this is not right. You know, you normally see maybe once in a blue moon a $500 taxi, but to have like 10, it's like, this isn't right. But again, that's because we look at the data, we understand it, because we know it. We know when something's not right.
Yeah, you know what the average is. It's averages, isn't it, of those different ones with that sort of service. So it should be a outline. So I think there's going back to Paul's one here about a naming convention. I think it comes into some good data modeling practices of, you know, having some standards in place, because you can get a lot more context out of it if it has got a good naming standard.
In procurement, it's either called a supplier name, a company name, or a vendor name. And it can mean different things for the same thing. And sometimes you see supplier and vendor and company all in the same file. And so, yeah, it's really good to just define what those things are.
Yeah, and having a good data catalog can help with that as well. When you actually have these things, actually have the business terms mapped onto them as well. So thanks for that one. I've got another slide. I'm going back to my rant about observability, because I think quality fits into some of this stuff. So I'll just put this little picture on. I'm getting good use out of this, because I actually got it up on last week's show, I think, with Hugo. So when people talk about observability, and I was spoken to them, they can never quite tell me exactly what they're actually observing. And I apologise for anyone that listens to last week. I'm going to bore you again with it, but I mean, just to go through and how I name each of these levels and what I think is being observed at each of those ones, and maybe some tools that are out there that do that as reference. But level 1 application, so that would be like the monitoring of any infrastructure, so things like Datadog and New Relic would do that sort of piece. Then you got your monitoring of your SaaS, your products, so your Fivetran, your Rivery, your ThoughtSpot, your Snowflake, anything that's a consumption based, or even just your AWS compute. Oh, sorry, Redshift or something, or whatever it was. I think this is where we move into quality a little bit. So, the connectivity of all of those as part of your battery and your infrastructure. So you can start getting quality issues with your data if the connectivity hasn't worked and things haven't been refreshed. So that freshness, I think you referred to, Suzanne. But then the content, that movement of data. So, for example, in that procurement industry, you're expecting to have 500 customers, you got 5,000, or the other way around. We're missing.
That happens a lot with the supplier normalization. When we take all the, IBM, I.B.M, IBM Inc., IBM Limited, and normalize it, we can reduce the supplier count by thousands. It's crazy.
Yeah, and to know that it's actually a valid consolidation rather than, so you may think, oh, hold on, we've got 4,000 clients. No, you've got 400 with 100 sites associated to each of them. So, understanding when moving data of the context of any merging that may actually happen or a deduplication.
Yeah.
But then comes under obviously the fate. Well, the quality one, which is the quality of the data, and again, probably when you come in retrospectively, you can only fix the quality of the data that's already persisted there. But I think I referred to it in the past as a quality firewall, where you shift it left, so you're preventing that poor quality data coming in the first place. That's ideally that's where we all will get to, isn't it? There's no point, we can carry on fixing this data and giving some rules of what it should look like, but we should be striving to a point where it actually comes in as we expect it. So I don't know. Well, how do we get there, Susan? That's a whole other story, isn't it? I suppose
it's all people. We've got to get people on board. I think the thing is as well that especially now, there's a lot of people out there working with data who are not data professionals, and they're the people that we really need to win over.
Yeah, the key stakeholders, and it goes on that storytelling part, isn't it? If we can start to get the right story to the right people that highlights the effect of the quality that we've identified, or they're owning. It affects everyone. And maybe that peer pressure piece as well is that, in an organization, the person that owns a customer, they're going to be the ones that everyone's pointing at because everyone wants a clean customer.
Yeah.
So if each of the departments that are subscribing or using or taking that mastered, that golden data from that CRM system, if that gold's got so much impurity in it, you're only going to fix it if you apply pressure to fix it downstream. Otherwise, it's just going to be the data team's problem forever. But we're not. We can't have that. I think so. I always like so. There's the data quality at the point it's been brought in, and the one you mentioned is data degradation. So, say for example, you weren't getting nulls in a particular field, and you've got a whole business process that is driven off that, and an assumption is it's always 99% populated, and with sparse values, not just with the one value.
But if somebody's doing some kind of manual Excel fix to populate that information, it's like on the surface it looks like everything's working fine, and then you dig a bit deeper and you find out someone's like keying in this stuff that could be automated. Or
a rule that doesn't apply anymore, and it's inaccurate.
Or you've got like a year in your rule, and then the year's changed, and so nobody's noticed.
So have you seen the biggest issue where people have mixed their dates in American and English format then?
All the time. And then we have a layer on top of that because we're based here and a lot of our clients are based in the US, when we're opening their files, Excel is trying to convert it to UK dates, and it's like, no, can you please just leave it alone?
Yeah, exactly. There's a great comment here from Marilyn. Yeah, 90% populated with rubbish is almost worse than being empty.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's wrong. Yeah. So yeah, fully support that one. So we've got a question for Susan from JT. Here we go.
So I saw this earlier. I mean, I'm not familiar with data quality frameworks, I gotta say, but what I would say is you have to use one that is understandable, relatable, and most likely to be used by you and your team or your organization. So it will be a different thing for different people. I don't think there's a one size fits all out there for anything really.
Yeah, that's probably a loaded question from JT. So I think we've had the
Bring it on, Jason. That's what I say. Come
on. Yeah, I think you can have a guideline, but it's everything needs to be refined and to each individual organisation to some degree. Yeah, especially the messaging sometimes.
If there was a quick and easy way, we'd all be out of business by now.
Yeah, exactly. We do this because we thought it was easy, not because it was easy. Yeah, and I think just to complete the full circle of this one, I think the usage one, which links into, you know, if you don't understand who's using your data and how they're using it and when they're using it, you know, you can't help them with, you know, is it of the right quality?
Well, yeah, you could be focusing in on cleaning an area of data that you don't even need, you know. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that timeliness thing is something I've given an example of in the past was, you know, if you're ordering stock for a particular organization and you know there's a 6-week lead time to getting that stock, plus also you get an early commitment discount of X amount for volume discounts as well, but you can't accurately forecast your forward sales for that because your data scientist hasn't had his time to crunch his data, or he hasn't got, you know, the piece of information that is on a batch somewhere else. So to go back to the value of having that data in a more timely manner, well, it's an easy calculation, because if I had that on this date here, I would have ordered the stock which had arrived when I needed it, but I've also got an extra 20% discount, so I'm marginally 20% more on that.
But I used to do that old school. I used to forecast in one of my old jobs, but you know, you have to take into account seasonality, marketing promotions. It coming over from China was a big issue, and basically it was me in an Excel spreadsheet, I have to say, but I had one of the highest forecasting accuracies in the business. So
very good, very good.
But again, I had a lot of control over everything I could see. I think when you have lots of people and different departments involved, that visibility starts to disappear.
It's very true, and I think it's again when I started this industry, you know, the data team was a very small team, and you didn't have to have, you know, these wave of experience on technologies
There was IT. There was no data team when I was in corporate life. It was IT. That was it.
I think I was more in shadow IT, as I would refer to. I was the annoying person that was just getting extracts and crunching them and playing them back to them. And one of those projects was back then was actually two examples of that. One was consolidation of all of the sites, so it was just had the one, so it mapped it onto the same, and that was a manual exercise we did then. But the other reason for that was driven from the organization moving from a high renewal support renewals for very expensive licenses once a year, to moving to a high volume, low price software company. So it was lots of small, but then you imagine the overhead on the administration departments now is that now you've got to send out 50, 60, 70 invoices a year to a client, all really little, whereas before you just had to send out one for 100,000. So we did for a whole exercise once we'd actually consolidated all of the individual sites to their account, then look to see when the highest renewal date was. So basically to move the revenue and align them all as a prorated to a common expiry date for all of them. So your first year's support would, rather than it being 12 months, well, it renewed for 13 or 14, or it moved it around. Two reasons: that not to move the revenue to different places, because it would have affected the cash flow of the business. But yeah, that removed the need for a very, very complicated and laborious billing process. Just removed it down to what we are.
Yeah, that's something that they look at a lot in procurement as well. Number of invoices per supplier, frequency, because this is super boring now and geeky, but like the average cost to process an invoice is something like £25.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So imagine you've got lots of like £5, £10,
Yeah.
£15 invoices. You're actually losing money on them.
Very interesting point, isn't it? Yeah, it's the internal administration overhead of doing this stuff is overlooked some. All right, well, we're approaching 5 minutes, and I need to probably get some water because my voice.
Yeah, I need to go and rest up.
Yes, but I mean, before we go, do you want to share with the audience what you got coming up? You said we were sharing a lot of travel. Well, you got some personal holidays as well.
So this is the year of less business travel, more personal travel. So I'm off to Lanzarote in 2 weeks to lie on a beach. So I'm very excited about that. Then I have it's called PSI. It's a procurement event. So we're exhibiting there early March. In April, I am off to Sweden to speak at a financial event. And then in May, I'm in Chicago and Las Vegas for work. And then June, I am flying myself off to the Maldives.
Very nice. Very nice. So
and then I think that's kind of all...
to Vegas more. Which Vegas or Maldives? It's got to be Maldives, isn't it?
I've done Vegas to death. In fact, a year or two ago, I was there for 2 weeks in a row, just with 2 different events, and I was crawling the walls to get home. Yeah,
I can relate to that. I think I did. It wasn't last year; it was the year before. 2022 must have been. So I think we won part of the year with Snowflake. We won ThoughtSpot merging partners.
Yeah.
I was there with wards, everyone catching COVID, and it was fun.
And just all that aircon and oxygen, it just does weird things. Like my nails didn't grow for 2 weeks. It was weird.
Oh, and my hair never grew back afterwards as well. It was just fun. Well, yes, if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That is, I'm hang out here all the time, crazy videos and all kinds of weird ways to get people interested in cleaning their data.
You do a good job. So I suppose if anyone wants to catch up with me, I'll be in day-to-day Texas.
Coughing in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, I'll be in day-to-day Texas next week, and next week's show. I got the value of OBS.
Yeah.
So we got
one like that. That sounds great.
So tune in for next week. So thank you, everyone. I'm just going to go get some water and die.
Thanks so much for having me.
Much for the show.
Take care of yourself.
I will do. So that's a wrap, everyone. Bye.